Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to learn all about what these do, what the different types do, and something that everybody that buys headers needs to install with them. So check it out. All right, so headers are pretty cool. Some headers are extremely expensive, some aren't. Obviously, there's different qualities in build materials, there's different sizes, the way they're welded together. The bottom line is headers will change the sound of your exhaust system, and they're also going to change the performance of your engine. So the engine you see behind me here is a Chevy 350.
Big ass V8 and a fat tailpipe.
That is a V8 engine that's going in a CJ5 custom rock crawler. Because that vehicle is going to spend most of its time at low RPM, I wanted something that was going to give me a low RPM horsepower and torque range. Headers, depending upon the length of the header, are going to do that for you. Shorty headers, like the ones that I bought, are going to wind up giving you that low, off idle, and mid-range torque number.
That sucker in a second.
Long tube headers typically give you that at higher RPM, and then you have a mid-length, which again, typically at higher RPM. Now, the thing to think about with your header selection is also what vehicle you're putting it in, because if you're putting it in something like a rock crawler, something that's going to have rocks sliding across the bottom of the vehicle, long tube headers are probably not what you want because they tend to hang down below the frame and you're going to drag them over some things. If you have a vehicle that's super low to the ground, that's the same kind of idea, right? You're gonna drag them over speed bumps, things like that. Clearance is definitely a big deal when it comes to aftermarket headers. So make sure you buy something that's not only gonna work for your uses, but also give you power where you want it. One of the biggest things with a set of headers like this that will affect the cost is gonna be the coating that's on them. Lots of headers, especially the cheaper headers, come like this, coated in something black. But there's a lot of other headers out there that are going to come with a ceramic coating. That ceramic coating is much more heat tolerant than this stuff. This stuff is not heat tolerant at all. It's going to burn right off as soon as I install them on the engine, causing them to rust in the future, look terrible, and shorten the life of them. But let's step on over to the workbench. Let me introduce you to a couple of chemicals because I have tried them all and nothing works on whatever they coat these things in. We're gonna get to it, strip these down so I can finish repainting them with the right stuff and then get them on that engine. Okay, so I have my header secured into my vise, basically using the plate that bolts it to the engine. I can strip that little piece off that I can't get to much later. But this is basically what you're gonna want. You're gonna want a Clean Strip brand premium stripper. Now they have one that is pourable and then they have one that is brushable. Get the brushable kind along with a bunch of cheap brushes. You're also gonna want the same brand and some acetone. You're gonna wanna make sure you wear some nice rubber gloves, nitrile gloves, something like that. And the reason that this stripper works so well is that it is basically a gel. We're gonna put it on the brush, we're gonna brush it onto the headers, we're gonna let it sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes. So some time has gone by. I got a cheap set of wire brushes. We're just gonna start getting after it. And look at that, right down to bare steel. So pretty cool. We're gonna get to basically doing the rest of them. Flip it over, get any places that maybe this misses or that I missed the first time, and then we'll move on with the next step.
A few moments later.
All right, guys, so at this point, I have that exhaust manifold kind of taken care of. It's not the prettiest job. It takes a lot of time, but we're ready. I got some flame-proof, real high temp spray paint here. I'm gonna repaint them in black, but it's something that isn't gonna burn off as soon as I fire up the vehicle and run some heat through those headers. This will make them look good for a real long time. When I wrap them to keep the heat out of the floor of the vehicle, it will prevent them from rusting, and it'll be a good thing to make them last a good long time. So I'm gonna get them coated in this, and then we're gonna move on with the install. All right, so we're back. It's another day, and the reason I had to wait is because I needed the headers to cure. That heat tolerant paint that I was talking about a little while ago takes, a few hours to cure. Really, it takes a full 7 days for this stuff to really fully cure, but I should be able to handle it at this point and get these finally installed on the motor with some cool fasteners from Stage 8. Stage 8 locking fasteners is super cool because they come with a super high grade, high strength bolt for your application, not just headers, but they come with these little locking tabs and a clip to secure them in place. Those locking tabs and those clips prevent that bolt from ever loosening, so it can't back out with vibration and things like that. So it essentially eliminates failure of your component due to your fasteners loosening. Now, they make things for the Department of Defense, they make things for all different kinds of contractors, all different kinds of things. And if you have an application that you have a bolt on that keeps loosening, and no matter what you do, you can't fix it, reach out to them because they will also custom design bolts for you to solve your problem. Pretty cool from a company that definitely supports the automotive industry in a really, really big way. Now, as I said earlier in this video, there are some different types of headers, and depending upon your application, you're gonna wanna make sure that you choose the headers that are gonna perform and fit your ride. But there is a difficulty that all headers face and all installers face when putting headers on a motor. Now, obviously, this situation here is a little bit different because this motor is just sitting in the frame. There are no fenders, there's no body around it at all. This is about the easiest it's ever gonna be to install a set of headers. The difficulty that all headers share upon install is lining up your gaskets. Now, gaskets are pretty tough to get in place. Again, on this motor, it's not gonna be a problem because I can essentially slap the header on, no big deal. But you often don't have a ton of room to be able to do that and get in there with your hands and line up your gaskets correctly. So here's an important tip that's gonna help all of you guys when you're installing your headers on your vehicle. On the outermost bolt holes, right, all the way here, and all the way on this side over here, basically corresponds with this bolt and that bolt. What you would want to do is actually notch a section of the gasket out on the bottom. What that would allow you to do is essentially put your header in place, very loosely thread in that bolt on each end, just a couple of threads, and then slide the gasket down between the header and your engine. And having that notch cut out in that gasket would allow it to slide past the bolt and fit into place. I'm not going to do that with these because it's not necessary, and obviously leaving the gasket intact is probably a tiny bit stronger, but I've also done it the other way and never had a gasket fail because of it. So it's just pretty cool little life hack there to get your gaskets on your exhaust manifolds or your headers and make it your job a little bit easier. The driver's side header on this vehicle fits on perfectly, right? I have all my bolts in. I haven't tightened them down just yet, but we're gonna get to that. Down there, basically between the frame, I have plenty of room. Now, if you'll notice, this header is actually shaped a little bit differently, and that's something to look out for when you buy headers. And I purposely wanted that header on this side to kind of come straight down, and then on the other side, I wanted it to angle back a little bit. Because of that shape difference in the way that this frame was made, let me show you guys. This header on this side, you'll see, doesn't come straight down. It kind of angles back. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I want that driver's side exhaust pipe to basically come across the bottom, nice and tight, and then kind of hook into the passenger side. Now, again, not the best performing exhaust system as far as high horsepower and things like that, but for a rock crawler with a transfer case and all sorts of long, crazy control arms, that's what I needed this thing to do. The problem that we're running into with this is down here, I don't even have this fully installed yet. Obviously you can see a gap in there, and we're already contacting or just about to contact the frame. And when I tighten these up, it pushes this into that frame. Now that's not a big deal because I'm bolting these on to basically get measurements and make my own frame. This frame is not usable. It's trashed. It's been cracked and broken and welded onto over the years. It's not going to handle the higher horsepower of this V8 plus the big 1-ton axles and all the abuse I'm going to put it through. So when I make my own frame, I'm just gonna have to make it a tiny bit wider in that section just to make sure that it clears the exhaust. We're gonna basically tighten them up now, get those clips on there so you guys can see how they work and why they'll never loosen. And that's basically it for this part of the CJ5 build. We're basically just gonna snug these up. I'm gonna take these tabs now and just kind of find a spot where they're gonna be happy. And then we're gonna lock it in with that locking tab. Because now this guy can't turn. And if it does turn, this corner will contact the exhaust pipe and stop it from loosening. Like I said, I will get to the passenger side. Basically all there is to it with these, okay? They're pretty super simple, and they're basically the same kind of design on the 14-bolt axle that I'm putting in this rig. But I have that in the JK, so let me show you that really quick. All right, over here we are on my 14 bolt that I have in the back of my JKU, in the back of Warpaint, and you can see we have those same kind of locking tabs, slightly different design. What they did here to prevent these from loosening is they basically bridged one to the next, and then that allows you to basically not have either one of them loosen, holding your axle shafts in. Super cool product from Stage 8 Locking Fasteners. They make a ton of stuff for RVs, race cars, all different kinds of things, turbo kits. Anyway, guys, make sure you share this video with any of your buddies that are installing headers on their ride because these things are pretty friggin' cool. Anyway, guys, get on out there, build something.